Technique or another one of your guys' contractors you work with brings a customer that they know like possibly has damage,
Mhm.
kind of what's the process from like the real early stage beginning of for as a customer, like what do I need to do, what should I expect?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think what we do at Premiere is sometimes, not understood very well. So, I think if you're able to make it pretty clear to the customer what we do and how we can help, it becomes a pretty good path to take. And the way I explain it is, we become your adjuster, just like the insurance company has an adjuster. You need one that represents you in your situation because the insurance company, they advertise nice things and have cute little sayings and they're going to be on your side. But at the end of the day, they're a for profit organization. So one of the main ways they make money is, cutting corners and denying claims. They're not paying them what they should be. So often we get involved and, um, it's a pretty easy process after we get involved, but it's kind of explaining that to the customer on why we should be involved. And um, the way I explain it is pretty simply just, we're an extension of the contracting team. We want to get your roof back to the condition it was before the storm event took place. That doesn't mean, almost like it was or halfway there, like the insurance companies like to do sometimes, but completely back to, pre-loss condition. So, um, that's where we work with you and have that conversation with the insured and make sure that they understand what's going on and what the process will look like. And we can get into that process here in a minute, I'm sure. But that's what I like to do: just kind of set everything, make sure they understand who we are, how we help, and they understand why we're getting involved to help them. Because I think if you can answer some of those questions up front, that makes the whole process seem a lot easier. So,
And what are some of like the common, you know, things you hear from customers? Because like obviously this really isn't a very well known thing that's available to companies and commercial building owners. So like what's something you hear a lot of and uh, that somebody might have a question on right now that might be in that they might be there right now that has the same question.
yeah, I think one of the things we get often is is it I thought this would be covered under warranty, or am I still under warranty? I'm sure you guys hear that too, but
Yeah.
one of the things, obviously, when there's hail damage or wind damage involved to a building, it doesn't make a difference whether you're in warranty or not. So I know some of the contractors that we've worked with in the past have taken a list of their out of warranty work to see if any of those locations have been impacted by a storm, because it's a pretty good story when you come back to the insured and say, look, I think, you might have some damage on your roof from the hail or wind or whatever took place. We just had some tornadoes hit Iowa here over the weekend, and then snow within 24 hours later. So, a lot of these roofs haven't even been inspected yet.
I'm the customer. You reached out, you explained who you are to me. I know your Premier Claims. I know the contractor. Either Technique Roofing or someone else you guys work with. I know them. I get that, and so I sign up, sign a contract with you guys. So from there, like, what should I expect to have to do to make? Do I have to do anything,
Yep.
or like what does that entail?
Yeah, good question. So, as the insured, whoever owns the building, I'm not. I always like to ask them if they've ever been a part of a claim process before. Some people have, some people haven't. Most of the time, if they have, they'll tell you it probably went one of two ways: either extremely great or extremely poor. More often the latter than the first, but um, we just kind of get them familiar with that, and then say, we're going to be handling your claim from this point on. At no time do you need to talk to your carrier. We've got representation for you that will be communicating with them on all things claim related. So, as the owner of the building, honestly, it's kind of nice because you can just sit back and let us do the work for you. That's why we charge a fee if we're successful in doing it. Typically, on commercial buildings, our fees is about 10%. Um, so, at the end of the day, I always just tell the owner if we're successful in an example where there's $100,000 roof involved, Technique will have to agree to do the work for 90,000 because our fee will be about 10,000 in that example. So, um, we get the owner on board with that scenario, make sure they understand how we're going to be representing them. One of the things that I always have to mention, in the claim process is it's never overnight, right? So you've got to allow us time to work and get in touch with the carrier. There's certain rules and regulations that we've got to follow as far as how much they communicate with us. Insurance companies are never quick to give away money. So one of the
Yeah.
things that we've got to make sure and do is inform people of that up front and let them know that that's a tactic that they use to make them frustrated. So just understand we don't, we're not trying to slow down the process of your money for sure. We're trying to make it go as quickly as possible, but you know, they don't like to just hand out checks either. So
Yeah.
that's,
So,
that's a good point to make.
and in the meantime, like, my roof has damage. I'm a
Yep.
building owner. Like, what can I expect to happen
Yeah,
for
work
that?
with, obviously technique to make sure that the repairs are done for any, you know, mitigation that needs to be done to protect the, interior product of whatever building we're talking about. So
Hmm.
that will be included in the claim process. But yeah, any emergency repair work that needs to be done needs to be taken care of because that is part of the insured responsibility. So make sure you guys do that work. Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess what I see sometimes is, in a lot of people like they don't know that, like, insurance, like, this is why they have insurance
Right.
for events like this, and but they know their insurance guy, or he's in the local chamber with them all the time, they're
Right.
buddies, and they have a
Yeah,
reservation about it.
it's being in the Midwest. I think it's too nice,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, everybody, my agent is one of my friends that I socially hang out with. But when it comes to the claim process, the agent has zero to do with the claim, and I think people have a hard time, keeping those things separate because they've got a relationship with their agent, but at the same time, they also pay, thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in premium to protect these, commercial buildings they insure. Um, the agent's relationship and the claim process are two completely separate things. Your agent has nothing to do with the claim. Um, and I think some people sometimes get a little worried that their insurance company might drop them, or they might have a problem with getting insurance coverage after a storm. Just remember, they're not allowed to drop you for an act of God. So hail, wind, something like that. Insurance companies are not supposed to be able to do that. Um, if they were in a situation where they were dropped or, couldn't find coverage, we work with a couple different, insurance companies that are, um, that have licenses all across the United States with different carriers where we would be able to refer them out to, you know, there's always a different insurance policy out there that you could buy. So,
Yeah, definitely. What should I expect after that phone call I get from Premier that's, hey, it's approved?
yeah, as the owner of the building,
Yeah, as the owner of the building,
yeah, as the
yes.
owner of the building. So now we know that we've got coverage coming, right? They're going to pay out your claim typically in two stages. They'll pay out, we'll call it 70% of the claim right now, and then they'll pay out 30%, the rest of the claim, after the work has been completed. So, as the owner of the building, what we need to do is get in touch with, Technique, if the contractor is going to be Technique, to let them know so they can start planning the process. You know, we've got to provide everybody with as much lead time as possible now because of the delays that COVID had. There's a lot of roofing delays with that involved. So make sure we're involved with Technique in that scenario to make sure they've got enough lead time to plan for this project. And as part of, our team at Premier, we've got a customer service team that will be informing the owner, the insured, of each step as it goes along. So they would get a phone call from them at the time to let them know that everything's been approved and we're working with Technique to make sure the job gets scheduled and lined up. So
Okay. And then, so now, the job gets scheduled, Technique or another contractor you guys work with comes, they do a good job, get the roof done. So we're in that stage. So I got my roof done, but like only 70%, has been paid to me, or to the premier and to the contractor. So how long does that take, that process to finish the whole claim off?
yeah, as soon as the contractor is done with the job, we'll ask for a full and final invoice from them, and provide that to the carrier. And once the carrier signs off on that, the depreciation is released. Usually that's within, you know, uh, depending on whenever we get the full and final back from the insured, we send that to the carrier. That's typically a 2-week process. So um, it's that the rest of that money is usually done within 60 days of being complete. So
If I have an older building and now there's a code change, so there's an upgrade that now the building department wants me to have, like an overflow, for example. Is there some coverages that would cover like a code upgrade?
yeah, good question. It's different for every single policy. So one of the only two things we need up front to start a claim is photos of the damage, and then the owner's insurance policy. And when we ask for that up front, we're looking for things like you're talking about. We look at things like if the policy's RCV, or if it's ACV, if there's uh, co-deductible, if there is any co-insurance issues that we're going to look at. Was the building insured correctly? All of these separate things are things that insurance companies have in place in policies to not pay a claim, essentially. But um, that's why we look at the policy right up front, and review it to let you know what the situation may be. You'll find policies that range all over the board, but typically in Ohio, you've got a 2-year window to file a claim after a storm. So just remember that. And then um, I think one of the other things to look at is make sure that we look at the policy before we get involved in the next steps of communication, because it could have a policy that has an exclusion on the roof, or some sort of endorsement that doesn't cover a certain part of the building or whatever. But it's a very important part of the process, and it's actually something that we've done for a few of the different groups that we work with on the investor side. Is we'll actually help them with the policies that they sign up for, to make sure they don't have anything in their policies language wise that's going to prevent them from proper coverage if a hail or windstorm hit their property. So
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely an important step, is just identifying if you're even covered for events like this.
exactly. So, and that's something that we can usually turn around within you know 2 days, I would say, in our office is a normal time for that. So
After everything's said and done, my roof's replaced, I got the depreciation, all that. Is there anything else, like as a building owner or the insured, that I should expect to have to do or follow up with?
no, you just got to send me cookies on my birthday.
Cookies.
Every February. No, at that point, after you've gotten the depreciation, hopefully the contractor um, has done a good job, and you guys are all squared away. And I believe the new the roof should be in good shape for a few more years. And at that point, we just got to ask for more people that they know about that have roof damage, so we can help them too. But yeah, as far as the owner goes, it's really a process where they're not too hands on, and we're working behind the scenes to do a lot of work in our office. So ideally, it would be a situation where I don't have to think about it as the owner, and I know I've got the team at Premier handling it for me. So
Yeah, let's dive into that a little bit, because I think it's important to know the other side. If like you don't sign up with a public adjuster or Premier Claims and a contractor that you guys might work with, or us, I mean, what does that? I mean, obviously there's a need for something like this. Yeah. So what is the other side of the process? Like, how does?
Yeah, the other side. I mean, I'll just be flat out honest. Your other options are you can hire an attorney, which is going to require, some sort of down payment, or an hourly fee that's very probably similar to, what we're doing. Again, we usually charge about 10%. Attorneys typically charge 30%. So that's always an option. Or they can file the claim and work the claim on their behalf. Again, as a registered, public adjuster, there's certain rules that the state insurance commissioner has to follow, because we have a license, and most contractors do not. The insurance company doesn't have to answer you as the contractor or as the insured, because you don't have a license. talk to them about, public adjusting like we do. So it's a big part of it. You would kind of be, out there fighting the fight on your own. It would be like, similar to, I guess, would you perform surgery on yourself if you were if you needed surgery and couldn't afford it? I sure wouldn't, but you never know.
Is there any statistics on anything that comes to your mind of what happens if you don't use a public adjuster versus if you do? Just like, I mean, I've seen some before. I just can't think of anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think our average increase of claim that we say, and I'm not exactly sure if that's a current number, but it's around a 700% increase than we get when we're involved compared to
That's
if we're not
huge.
involved, which is amazing number, right? But
The reason it's huge is because that money's used to make sure that the project's done correctly
Exactly.
and not half-assed or done incorrectly
Exactly.
because there's not the money to do it right.
yeah, I mean, the situation that we just finished with, a small little bar owner was involved. He had, a roof that was around $100,000, and the carrier had agreed to give him like 60. We got involved. We got, very good photos of the damage. We went back to him and said, how is this at 60,000 when the going rate is actually 110? And they actually came back and agreed and paid 112. And these guys had a quote that was, right in that range, and they were able to do it. So, why didn't they do that the first time? Who knows, right? But after we got involved, we were able to help them out, and they got, a lot closer to paying for that roof. So, in the storm, I don't know if you remember the derecho storm that hit the state of Iowa.
Yeah, the windstorm.
The windstorm, that was pretty devastating for a few of the, Cedar Rapids, almost essentially completely wiped out. And we got involved in a few claims there where the initial payments were, $10 to $20,000, and that ended in the several $1 million range on different warehouses and things like that. So carriers were obviously, trying to get away with murder, in my opinion, coming in offering lowball. But a lot of people don't understand that they have other options either. So, once they take some of that money from the insurance company and just think that, well, I guess this is what we have to live with, they don't understand that there's another option. So I feel bad in those scenarios where they get, you know, not enough coverage that they should have been because they just didn't know who we were. And
Yeah, I think it's definitely not a well-known thing.
I know it's less than 1% of all claims that come in that have a public adjuster on them. And if you look at the spending and ad revenue, marketing revenue for State Farm and Travelers, it's and the Allstate. Look at all the commercials that we see nonstop on all the sporting events that we see on TV. It's crazy.
Yeah,
And
you're in good hands,
right,
like a good neighbor.
and
Like it,
in our industry, we kind of laugh about it, but some of the worst names to see on policies are State Farm, Allstate, because they're so slow on moving. State Farm got on the local news in Des Moines, um, in this past summer because of their poor ability to pay claims. So many people were frustrated with State Farm and that market. So it's interesting. We're on the other side of the coin, and I think some people think it might be too good of a deal to be true sometimes. But it's we're able to prove that the damage is there, show that the carrier that there's need to be a coverage decision in place, and really help a lot of people out. So yeah,
because they're paying for the coverage. I mean,
exactly.
it's not
It's
like,
something that you're paying for.
yeah,
Yeah, usually a very stiff premium. Yeah, I mean, just look at the big buildings when you go into the big cities. They're banks and insurance companies. So
yeah, in the stadiums.
exactly. There's for a reason for
Yeah,
that.
I don't know anything else you want to touch on. You think about?
Before we were involved here, did you guys do a lot of storm damage? Did you focus on it, or
It's not like we're chasing storm damage.
no?
Most of what we've worked with are people we know that are current customers that a storm just happened to happen to them,
Right.
and we've known them and worked with them for years and years and years. So it's so no is the answer.
Right.
But and it was a disservice, I think, to like our customer base. And luckily the big storm that had happened when we started working together. Like we did start working together because we got to really take care of our customers.
Yeah. No, that's good to hear. I mean, I know it's the keys to this kingdom are what you guys have here. You've got the relationships over with 30 years worth of customers, which is, I mean, that's what makes this thing go for sure. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that it made an impact, and we know that it's definitely more of a focus for us too to make sure we're more proactive. So
Yeah, definitely. Because
definitely
the
helps.
even though your buddy, the insurance agent is your buddy, he's not knocking on your door and letting you know like,
Yeah.
hey, there was a potential big hailstorm, or
Right.
did you have any damage from that windstorm?
Right.
They're
He's not
not.
asking.
No, they're not
Yeah,
asking.
that's for sure. No, it's been great, and I'm glad it's I'm working out well on your end too. But we're anxious to I guess get the word out there a little bit more on what we do and how we can help when there is damage involved. So yeah, thanks for helping us do that. That's for sure.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Trent.
All right, thanks, Ben.